So the topic is becoming spiritual ushers. And ushers are the friendly folks who help you find a seat and find your way, and get you oriented to what's going on around you. And what we're speaking about is a new cycle in the history of our beloved mother planet called the Earth. On December 21st, we completed a 5,125-year cycle, which was the fifth in a 25,625-year cycle that moves us literally around the Milky Way. And this is a scientific fact. It is the end of a cycle, and those cycles are as regular as clockwork. It's called the precession of the equinoxes, or no, precession of the solstices, excuse me. And interestingly, it has been prophesied and predicted by ancient wisdom traditions for a very long time. The Mayans and the Aztecs were aware of this several thousand years ago, way before the Hubble telescope was invented and before we understood anything like we understand about astronomy today. And interestingly, at the conclusion of this 5,125-year cycle, at least for the last two, have been part of the destruction of great civilizations that have coincided with the ending of this cycle. Perhaps that's a coincidence, perhaps it's not. The predictions from the ancients are that we are about to undergo a great transformation, that we are on the cusp of planetary changes, earth changes they've called them, and all kinds of things may go on. Contrary to some fear-based folks who predicted that since the Mayans had nothing to say about what the calendar was up to next, that the world was going to end. Well, it obviously didn't. And one of the other important things that you can take from the collapse of the civilizations in the previous ending of these 5,000-year cycles is that we're still here. Some of us survived. So the world is not about to end. We are not about to fall into the giant crevasse and be swallowed up and spit out in little pieces. We have a great opportunity because there will be some changes. One of the things that happens in a collapse of a civilization is that old institutions that no longer serve fall apart. Can you think of any institutions that you're aware of that aren't doing so well today? Yes. That's an oxymoron, you know. Postal service. The world is potentially ready to fall apart. There's an economic malaise that seems to be infecting the world. Climate is changing and people are saying, we're doing it, and some other people are saying, nah, it's not happening, and all kinds of stuff is going on around the issue of the climate. There's an issue of what are we doing to our beloved and holy Mother Earth? Are we messing in our nest? We might be accused of that, justifiably. So, things are changing. And there is a leap in consciousness that's about to be taken. And the call is for some folks to serve as spiritual ushers. And how do we do that? Is it reasonable to expect that any one of us, or even 500,000 of us, could literally change what's going to go on in this 5,000-year cycle that's just now beginning? Just a few weeks old? Probably not. Probably not. But one of the great students of human consciousness, Dr. David Hawkins, who just passed away last September, if you didn't know that, through his scientific training and his experimental questioning of what went on in the world, he has come up with a notion that indeed the consciousness level of the people who inhabit the earth is gradually getting higher, more powerful, more able to withstand the kind of changes that may be coming down the pike. And what we're called to do is to raise our own consciousness. Dr. Hawkins said over and over and over again, the single most important thing that any individual can do for the good of all humankind is to raise their own consciousness level. And what does that mean? What does that actually mean? It means, for some of us who are students of the Course in Miracles, it means living the Course. Not just reading it, not just being able to converse and know that it was scribed between 1965 and 72 by Helen Schuckman and Bill Thetford. That won't get you very far. What's required is what Andy read this morning, is living it, actually becoming an instrument of unity. There is only unity. Separation is an illusion. And what illusion it is, because we've all bought into it. We all see ourselves as separate. Not only separate from God, which we're not, but separate from each other, which we're not. On the physical level, of course, we have different earth suits. We have a whole flock of earth suits wandering around, bumping into one another. But at the level of mind, as Andy read this morning, at the level of Christ mind, at the level of unity, there is only one mind. And that's it. We are all part of it. And we're free, each of us, to invent ourselves in any way that we choose. And we can acknowledge our unity, we can acknowledge our Christedness, or not. And the call has gone forth. We are entering a new age, a new cycle in the development of our beloved and holy Mother Earth. And there will be some changes. There will be some things that actually seem to be falling apart. There will be, for a time, perhaps a rise in divisiveness, in anger. You can see it going on in the world. Things seem to be disintegrating. People are angry at other people. Parties are angry at other parties. Politics seems to be a mess just about everywhere in the world. And so what are we to do about that? Our mission is to raise our own consciousness level, to choose to see things differently, to see how it is that we can adopt new thoughts about what's going on in the world. We can drop our negative, lower energy thoughts and attitudes and beliefs that we use to separate ourselves. And it's, you see, the notion of separation is simply an idea that we've made up. It's not really the truth, the capital T truth. We've just made it all up. And any time that we choose to, we can start practicing being unified, being oneness, being an expression of love and divinity in all that we think, say, and do. And we can be guided by that energy. Or not. We're always at choice. We're always at choice. And the call goes forth. Become a spiritual usher. Bring us into a way in which we can survive whatever earth changes that seem to be showing up, whatever institutional changes that seem to be showing up. Institutions may fail. Governments may fall. Bankruptcies may occur. Change is in the wind. Who will you be in respect to what's going on? Will you cower in fear, believing in lack? Or will you step forth boldly and say, I don't believe in lack. I believe in ultimate goodness, that we are expressions of the divine, and we will, as a people, as a race, the human race, we will survive. And what might actually happen is that a great transformation may take place. We may be able to create a world in which we no longer fight with one another, where we no longer even compete with one another. We can create a world in which we cooperate like brothers and sisters. Ought to. By the way, do you think next Sunday the Arbor brothers are going to be cooperating? No, they're going to be competing. In one of the great illusions of the Western world, that football matters. And did we buy into that illusion? Ask me, how many years have you had season tickets to Michigan football games, everybody? 47. No, I don't believe in illusions. But we have the opportunity to lead by example. And it's not just to be a world leader. That doesn't matter. Because you see, in the studies that David Hawkins did with his scientific testing, he determined that just one consciousness at the level of 500 offsets tens of thousands of people who are below 200. Just one. And it creates an energy, an attractor field of energy. Like attracts like. And so when we choose to see divinity, to express divinity, to express love, when that's how we choose to operate, we are literally raising our consciousness, raising our awareness through conscious choosing, our awareness of our own divinity. That is who we are. It's what we are. We are love in form. That's what we are. Love having taken a form. That's the very essence of our nature. And we're free to ignore it or embrace it. We're always free. So, here we are on the cusp of a great new cycle. We see around us the possibility, the very real possibility, that institutions and systems may change. They may go through upsetting changes. But in the end, what matters is that life is. God is. Love is all there is. So we can go with the flow, or we can argue with reality and cause ourselves all level and form of internal distress. You can do that. You're free to do that. In fact, if you don't conform to what society thinks, you may be subjected to some other levels of stress, because society will always judge you. The secret is to be sufficient unto yourself, to be so tuned in to who you are and what you are that no one can shake your foundations. To be so aligned with the divinity that you are, that you practice unity. You practice, practice, practice. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you think first, how should I choose to be in this moment? And when you do that, you are raising your consciousness. You are becoming more godlike in everything that you think, do, and say. And it is up to us. If not us, who? And if not now, when? Great questions. Here we are. Why shouldn't we do it? Well, I know. Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes we forget. You know, we leave here all fired up and we go out and then somebody cuts us off, or we get a flat tire, or it starts to rain, or whatever gets in our way. And all of a sudden we jet right back into the old way of thinking. So my invitation to each of you is to make a commitment. Make a commitment to becoming a spiritual usher for the great new world that is aborning as we speak. It's happening now. What can we do about it? We can be the nurturers. We can be the ones who don't fall apart when everything else around us is falling apart. There's a great poem called Desiderata. I invite you to read that, because that's what we're up to. We are called to be the ushers. So, it's open mic time.